It is now 6:30 p.m. and I'd like to call this meeting of the Finance and Administration Committee to order. While this meeting is being held in person, we are also offering the option for the public to participate through Zoom if preferred. Instructions on how to attend virtually are included in the City Council calendar item listed on the front page of missionks.org. The public is also invited to participate in the meeting. If you are participating through Zoom, please either add your comment in the chat feature and it will be read out loud, or note that you would like to speak and we will call on you shortly to make your comment verbally. Please remember your comments or questions are visible to everyone in the meeting. If you are part of our in-person group tonight, please raise your hand but stay seated and we will call on you to go to the lectern to make your comment. When you make your comment, please state your name and city of residence for the record. Also, be conscientious of others trying to speak and speak slowly and clearly. This meeting will be recorded and posted on the city's website at missionks.org. Please contact the administration offices at 913-676-8350 with any questions or concerns. Ms. Folks, please call roll.
Boltinghouse,
Here.
Haden, here, Ryherd,
Here.
Pink,
Here. Here.
Josie,
Here.
All right, our first item of business is public comment. Is there any member of the public who would like to comment now? Seeing none in person, assuming none online. All right, thank you. We'll move on to public presentations. We have one public presentation this evening. Hand it over to the mayor.
Yes. Tonight, we will be installing new Ward 1 council member Josepha Haden Chomphosy. I recommend Ms. Haden Chomphosy to fill the Ward 1 council vacancy due to her dedication to the city of Mission and her impressive resume of private sector employment combined with volunteer and community dedication. The council confirmed her appointment at the April 17th legislative meeting, but she was unable to attend that meeting, so we would now like to administer the oath of office. I'd like to ask Ms. Haden Chomphosy to come forward and our city clerk will administer the oath.
Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the United States, Constitution of the State of Kansas, the Constitution of the State of Kansas, and the laws and ordinances of the City of Mission, and faithfully discharge my duties as Ward 1 council member of the City of Mission, Kansas. Congratulations.
All right, well, congratulations to Josepha. We welcome you to the council and look forward to the good work we will do together in service to our residents and businesses in our community. Welcome back up to the dais.
All right, thank you, Mayor, and welcome Councilmember Haden Chomphosy. We will now move into our action items for the evening. Our first action item this evening is the acceptance of the meeting minutes from Robin Folks.
Thank you. Draft minutes of the April 3rd Finance and Administration Committee meeting are included for review and acceptance in your packet tonight.
Thank you. Do we have a recommendation?
Recommend acceptance on consent.
Thank you. Yes. Our second action item tonight is for consideration of a resolution transferring benefits of the performance agreement for the 58th Nall multifamily redevelopment project from Laura Smith.
Yes, good evening. Can everyone hear me? Are we good?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. And I apologize for not being able to be there in person, but whatever I have, none of you wanted. So we're here. Our second action item this evening is a resolution to consider approval of the assignment of the performance agreement for the 58th and Nall project from Mojo Built LLC to At Home Apartments of KC LLC. Back in October of last year, the governing body adopted Resolution 1168 that determined the city's intent to issue industrial revenue bonds, or IRBs, in an aggregate amount not to exceed $20 million to finance the cost of the approximately 77-unit, 3-story multifamily housing project that's located at 5808 Nall. The IRBs were to provide a 70% property tax abatement for the project for a period of 10 years. The resolution that was adopted back in October also approved a performance agreement, which set forth some specific terms related to the property tax abatement, including the designation of 10% of the units as attainable housing at 60% of AMI, and for the project to achieve a minimum of 1 globe under the U.S. Green Buildings Green Globes rating system. The city was recently contacted by representatives from At Home Apartments of KC, who had been in negotiations with Mojo Built to purchase, complete, and own the project. At Home Apartments has been in the business of developing and operating multifamily real estate projects for more than 20 years. And although they are technically based in Columbia, Missouri, At Home has enjoyed a presence and mission for more than 20 years with their Kansas home office located just up the street at 5945 Woodson. They currently own, excuse me, 6 properties in Mission with approximately 286 units in between. Those projects were detailed in your action item summary. So I won't recap them here, but we've had a long-standing relationship over the last 20 years, and At Home Apartments has been a good partner in many of our visioning processes and just community building efforts for quite some time. They have reviewed the terms and conditions of the performance agreement and are prepared to meet all of the obligations that are contained in that agreement. However, Article 4 of the agreement does require the city to consent to any assignment of the benefits. So Kevin Wumpy of Gilmore and Bell prepared a resolution approving the assignment, as well as the document formally assigning and assuming the terms of the agreement. Both the seller and the buyer have reviewed that, and now it's ready for your consideration. Staff is recommending approval of the transfer and pending a successful closing in the coming weeks. At Home is prepared to commence construction of the project by the July 21st, 2024 milestone included in the agreement. I know that we have some representatives from At Home in the audience this evening, so I'm sure they would be happy to answer any questions the council might have. And if they'd like to make a quick introduction, they are certainly welcome to do so.
My name is Dana Brem. I am currently the regional manager for At Home Apartments of Kansas City. I'm here for any questions. I'd be happy to answer them. All right, do we have any questions, comments from the council? Not seeing any. Debbie, did you have something?
This was a Moffett property, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Is there any rationale for why it turned over to At Home Apartments?
Might let representatives for At Home answer that question. I know as we went through the conversation with Mr. Moffett last year, the transition to multifamily was somewhat new to he and his team, but let them answer.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Tom Jensen. I'm here from Columbia, Missouri on behalf of At Home Apartments, and I work very closely with the Miller family, who are the principals. And I've helped handle the acquisition for them from Mr. Moffett. I can't speak to some of the specifics, but he has alluded to the idea that he's probably getting a little bit closer to possibly retirement. And this is, of course, a long-term project. And it gave him some comfort that he was handing it off to a group that also operates. So there's lots of developers out there, but they work with third-party management firms, whereas At Home has it all in-house and they've got a lot of consistency. Dana, who introduced herself a moment ago, not only is she president of the Kansas City Apartment Association broadly, right here. She's been with the company for 16 years. So, and I'm happy to answer any questions. I did want to make one point that we're very familiar with the performance agreement, all four corners, all the obligations. I've been in close touch with Kevin Wempe to understand that process, because then, of course, the bond issuance, we understand our obligations to pay for the expense of that and to do everything timely. And we're excited to get going.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other follow-up questions? Otherwise, I'll take a recommendation.
Yeah, I just had a quick note. In the agreement, I think we need to double check the legal description at the end. So it looks like it says Million Hill Acres. I'm pretty sure it's Mission Hill Acres. Oh, just make sure we get that squared away.
We will look at that and get it corrected prior to your council meeting on the 15th.
Thanks, Laura.
All right, take a recommendation.
I can see this one going to regular agenda.
Yeah.
Just to talk through the change for public sake.
Perfect. All right, great. Thank you. Thank you too for coming. We have two discussion items this evening. The first is a discussion of the election process of committee chairs and vice chairs from Laura Smith.
Yes, thank you. This is just a reminder that by ordinance, we turn over our committee chairs by the first meeting in June of each year. So we just like to bring forward a reminder of that at our May committee meeting, because this will appear under new business on the May 15th, 2024 City Council agenda. Just a reminder, committee chairs are appointed for one-year terms. And Council Policy 104, which is included in your packet, outlines the practices and procedures of the council committees. And so as most of you are familiar, we would elect both a community development chair and vice chair, and a finance and administration chair and vice chair. I'd be happy to answer any questions, or if anybody has anything else to add about the benefits of being a committee chair.
Yeah, any other questions, comments, or discussion? Otherwise, we'll move on to the next chunkier discussion item of the evening. All right, looks like we are good. So we will move on to our second discussion item this evening, which is a conversation around the 2025-2029 capital improvement program, also from Laura.
Thank you. I think this might be the first time in 19 years that I've presented any part of the budget virtually. So please bear with me, but we didn't want to postpone this conversation. And we wanted to really just at least get rolling on some of the big decisions. So in years past, we often start with general fund budget. This year, we felt like perhaps with some of the large projects that are on the horizon in the next 1 to 2 years, it might make some sense to start with a capital improvement program, which will give us a little bit more time to discuss and brainstorm as we move through the rest of the annual budget process. It included a memo, which was very lengthy in the packet, and it really was intended primarily to just help create some background and context, especially for those on the council who are going through the annual budget process for the first time. But the capital improvement program is where we handle large capital infrastructure projects. They're typically both large in scope and often take more than 1 year to secure funding and or construct. And so it's more appropriate to handle those projects outside of the city's annual operating budget or general fund. Historically, Mission's CIP has been focused in 3 primary program areas: streets, stormwater, and parks and recreation. And that will continue. You'll see that continue in the 2025 to 2029 program that we'll be considering in the months ahead. I won't go into a lot of detail, but included in the memo is a debt summary. I think it's reasonable to say that the city has consciously used debt to address several of our deferred infrastructure needs, also to leverage grant or outside funding opportunities, or to complete projects which exceed the city's cash flow abilities in any given fiscal year. We've also seen with a 2022A issue, the desire of the current council to accelerate specifically park improvements. And so we were able to issue debt with a dedicated repayment source in order to accomplish those goals as well. So in the memo, you can kind of see the lion's share of the city's debt is still related to stormwater. We have some related to streets and parks and recreation. The only debt not carried in the capital improvement funds is for the facility conservation improvements that were made several years ago. And that debt service is carried in the general fund. We have annually in 2024, this budget year, we will expect to pay about 2.8, almost $2.9 million of debt service from the capital project funds. That actually increases to 2.9 million in the 2025 budget, which may seem a little counterintuitive, as usually when you are paying off debt, the number decreases. But that's the result of some structuring that was done in the stormwater debt many, many years ago. We structured that debt back in the mid to late 2000s in order to have level debt service payments. And so there is some fluctuation there, but in general, our debt will decrease. Just as kind of thinking ahead to debt, there are two significant projects that I think everybody is aware of on the 2025 to 2026 horizon, which are going to require some form of debt financing. Those include the Johnson Drive project from Lamar to Metcalf and the Rock Creek Channel project from Woodson to Maple. Both of those are large in size. The Johnson Drive project, between design, easement, and right-of-way acquisition and construction, is anticipated slightly over 14 million. And the Rock Creek Channel improvements are estimated at about 9.3 million. We have been very successful in securing outside funding, both federal and county, for those projects. We are continuing to look for additional funding opportunities and will do that up until the time we break ground on those. But we do think it's important to really get a formalized plan in place, or at least know the path that we want to be on early in the first quarter of 2024. We did have a call, Justin and I had a call this afternoon with Bruce Kimmel, the city's financial advisor, to just sort of begin to introduce and share with him the details that we have of both of those projects. And so we'll be coming back in the future with some plans and some options to look at that. It may involve the issuance of temporary notes, in part because, as I mentioned, we do have significant reimbursements coming back. We have a $6 million STP grant on the Johnson Drive project, along with Johnson County CARS funds, somewhere probably in the neighborhood of $2 to $3 million. And then on the stormwater side, we'll have about $4.6 million in Johnson County SMAC funds coming back. And so we want to be mindful of the fact that although those are all reimbursement processes, we'll want to navigate sort of the cash flow, but not carry significant amounts of debt longer than we need to when we have those repayment sources coming in. So more to come on that, and we'll have, I'm sure, some robust discussions around that piece of it. Kind of the first, I think Robin had provided at your place spreadsheets In looking at the streets and stormwater program, that's where we'll focus our conversation this evening. The Parks and Recreation program tends to be a little bit more complicated, and trying to handle that via Zoom didn't feel like a great plan for this evening. So we'll tack that on to some of our general fund discussions later this month. The stormwater program, I think most of you are familiar that there are generally 4 revenue streams that support that stormwater infrastructure program, the largest of which are stormwater utility fees that are assessed annually to each developed parcel in the city of Mission, generates approximately $2.6 million annually. We have we have 2 drainage districts that are established and have their own taxing authority in the city of Mission. One is exclusive to the Gateway site. The second follows the Rock Creek Channel, generally from Roland Drive all the way to Lamar. The city council serves as the drainage district board, and so you set the mill levies for both of those drainage districts as part of the annual budget process. The stormwater utility fees are also set at the discretion of the council each year during the annual budget process. We continue to seek funding, particularly for the large projects, but also in more recent years with the changes in the Johnson County Stormwater Program for maintenance projects, which has been very helpful to our budget, particularly as we look at full depth reconstruction in the street program. And then we have our Gateway Special Assessment revenues, which are not included in the 5-year CIP, which has been presented because, as we know, with that property currently in foreclosure, the taxes, which include the special assessment, are delinquent, and the city has to rely on the county's process in order to collect those. So I won't spend a lot of time talking about kind of the details of the stormwater utility fee, but tried to include enough detail in the CIP memo that was in your packet that can sort of help you understand how that is set and how that is calculated. The stormwater utility fee, excuse me, was last adjusted in 2017. And as I mentioned, those are assessed and collected annually as a part of the property tax bills. A $1 adjustment in the monthly stormwater ERU fee generates about $90,000 annually as a point of reference. And the stormwater utility rate is currently set at $28 per ERU per month, meaning that every single family property in the city pays $336 a year in stormwater utility fees. Council may recall that recently, when we made some revisions to our community rebate program, we had not historically included a rebate of the stormwater utility fee as a part of that program, and that was adjusted for 2024. We do have one of the highest stormwater utility fees of those cities in Johnson County who are assessing that, but that aligns pretty closely with the significant stormwater needs that we've experienced since revision of the FEMA floodplain maps back in the early 2000s. Stormwater utility fees, as I mentioned, have been static since 2017. And historically, they were set to cover existing debt service, which provides for an important plan and component of long-term financing. But it does present some challenges when there are significant issues that still need to be addressed, both in the city's primary and secondary stormwater system. We have been able to realize meaningful savings through the years over management of refunding opportunities of current debt. And in fact, we spoke with Mr. Kimmel about that this afternoon. Unfortunately, there are real no opportunities for us to refund any of our current stormwater issues but we evaluate that at least once, if not more frequently throughout the course of any given fiscal year. So the Gateway special assessment was the mechanism which was providing some flexibility to begin to look at some of those other projects, particularly outside of some of our main creek channels. As I mentioned, because of the status of that project, I think it's important we will have to look and work carefully in the next 5 years to kind of begin to address that or think about how we want to balance those needs. There are several larger projects in the 5-year stormwater CIP that is being presented or being considered, some of which require some further discussion and attention. Those include the Rock Creek Channel repair from Maple to Woodson, which is a $9.3 million project, 5424 Maple concrete channel repairs at $700,000, and really a placeholder at 3.3 million for the balance of the Rock Creek Channel from Lamar to Woodson. You may remember that in December of last year, Woodson presented the results of the preliminary project study for the Rock Creek Channel from Maple to Woodson, outlining 4 alternatives and their specific risk mitigation scores. The council approved proceeding with the design and construction of alternative 3, which consists of lowering the channel from upstream at Woodson to downstream of Reed's Road, upsizing the box culvert at Woodson, and replacing and upsizing the bridges at Outlook and Reed's Road. This project is a high priority. There have been, I think we're familiar with the extensive failures that have occurred over the last 5 years throughout this section, and we've spent significant resources making those emergency repairs. The city recently met with other members of Watershed 1 regarding this study, and there is general support for the project. In fact, I had an email from Stephanie late this afternoon saying the county is ready to commit the funding to this project, which will provide a 50-50 cost share for the design and the construction. And those estimated total project cost design would be in 2025, total cost of about $1 million, and construction in 2026 at a total estimated cost of about $8.3 million. That project is currently in design, and we will be sort of evaluating other opportunities to look at implementing pieces of the Rock Creek Corridor study, which the council recently saw the final report for, as well as exploring additional grant funding opportunities through the Planning Sustainable Places program at the Mid-America Regional Council to help look at kind of greening up, creating more green infrastructure, more community interaction in the public realm along that creek channel. So there's nothing specific included in the stormwater CIP at this point, but we need to bring back that Rock Creek Corridor study and really sort of have a conversation with the council to refine the various components in terms of prioritizing and beginning to plug those into a capital improvement program. The next significant project in the stormwater program is 5424 Maple, with design starting this year and construction in 2025. And this addresses a creek channel from Reed's or Maple east to the Mission and Roland Park city limits. The project includes joint separation and concrete slab repairs, and rebuild of about 80 feet of channel adjacent to a single family home at 5424 Maple. And so I can share some pictures when we put this forward in our next presentation. I'll share some photographs of that channel if you're not familiar. It's an interesting challenge over in that section. And then finally, as I mentioned, the other big project is the Rock Creek Channel from Lamar to Woodson. As I said, this is really a placeholder excuse me, included in the CIP to ensure that we're having conversations around this last upstream portion of the Rock Creek Channel. And so this section runs through an engineered or concrete channel behind the MFAC, Anderson Park, and the tennis courts, and then crosses underneath Woods or 61st Street and becomes a more natural open channel as it creek sort of meanders behind houses and connects out on Lamar. As I mentioned, that's about a $3.3 million project. That is not enough to do that entire stretch of the channel. But particularly if the Millhouse project proceeds as we anticipate, this is one that we may want to look at phasing and addressing in multiple sections in future years. We have not yet applied for SMAC funding for this project, but it would certainly be eligible for funding through Johnson County's SMAC program. So we have, in the stormwater CIP, we have several of the larger projects each year. And then in recent years, we have allocated 2 separate funding streams to complete localized or smaller repair or maintenance projects. So we have about $400,000 that is now budgeted annually for these type of projects that helps us to address corrugated metal pipe replacement, sometimes in connection with street projects, sometimes standalone projects, and really helps to begin to address a number of lingering stormwater issues in neighborhoods throughout the city. In April of last year, staff presented a methodology to be used in reviewing, rating, and prioritizing more of these localized non-emergency stormwater projects. And we also shared a ranking system. I included that presentation in the packet for your reference and information. We won't spend a lot of time on that this evening, but just would highlight that the top 4 localized stormwater projects included there were actually this evening are being recommended for funding and contract award on your Community Development Committee agenda. So we do have sufficient funds to be able to continue to make progress. But as we look at the large project coming up in 2025 and 26, we're certainly going to want to sort of look at how we most effectively manage those in connection with the financing gaps we know we're going to have on the larger project. And also we are looking at continuing to inventory and document the overall condition of the stormwater management system. We included $200,000 for a stormwater master plan in the 2024 budget, with the expectation that we would get half of that reimbursed through a Corps of Engineers grant. And we are currently walking through that process. And that will be coming forward for council action in June. And once that is completed, it will really help to ensure we can look at the most complete picture of our overall system condition and allow us to be more strategic in pursuing other funding opportunities and or in managing our budget. I'm going to pause briefly there and see if anyone has any questions on the stormwater program before we jump into streets.
Right, questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks, Laura. So regarding the special benefit district revenue that we're putting on pause while that property goes through the county process, you had alluded to this, I think, but it sounds like we will see that money someday. It's just a matter of how it could be several years, and we're basically planning for it as if it's not here right now. Is that correct?
That's correct. So one of the reasons we converted that to a special assessment was that it stays with the property, and it actually keeps the city at any negotiating table in the event we were to find ourselves in the situation that we're currently in. So yes, that money is owed us, and at some point we'll have the opportunity to collect that.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right, Laura, we look good to continue on.
Okay. Next, we'll talk about the street our street and transportation program. I think everyone's aware that street maintenance continues to rank as the highest priority for Mission residents in the Direction Finder survey, which is our citizen satisfaction survey that is conducted every 4 years by ETC. Funds that are expended in this portion of the CIP address street maintenance, curb and gutter repair, replacement, sidewalk repairs or additions, and other items which support our transportation network, including signage, signals, striping, etc. We have developed a multi-year residential street preservation program based on pavement conditions and available resources. And the council will recall that we've currently set a goal of allocating about $2 million annually to residential street maintenance. And that was done as part of the commitment made to our residents and voters during renewal of the dedicated street sales tax in 2021, 22. So the revenue streams, again, there are 4 primary revenue streams that currently support the city's street and transportation network. Those include special highway funds or gas tax funds that are distributed by the state and passed down to cities. Mission's portion of gas tax receipts annually is about $265,000. We have the dedicated 3/8 cent sales tax for streets, which generates about 1.18 or 1.2 million annually. We have a property tax transfer from the general fund for street maintenance. And that has consistently been about 1.4 million in for the last several years. It is budgeted at 1.4 million in 2024. And then again, similar to the Johnson County Stormwater Program, we consistently apply for funding through the Johnson County CARS program, which provides matching funding for certain CARS eligible streets, primarily your arterial and collector streets throughout the city. Again, we have diligently pursued state and federal funding opportunities, working to stretch our dollars even further. And our challenge here, not unlike what we discussed in the stormwater program, is really balancing residential street preservation needs, excuse me, with the larger arterial and collector projects that can be partially funded through the Johnson County CARS program. We know that the condition of our streets, our residential streets in particular right now, essentially requires us to do a full depth reconstruction as opposed to any sort of intermediate maintenance program on those streets. So when we do those streets, we are taking everything back to the subgrade. We're repairing and replacing stormwater, and we're coming back, essentially rebuilding the streets. One of the things that we have not encountered yet in the 5-year program, and I think will start to pop onto the horizon in the out years of this 5-year program, is how do we balance routine or intermediate maintenance along with the full depth reconstructions, along with the Johnson County CARS projects, because it is important for us to think about those intermediate maintenance, which could be some sort of seal or UBAS treatment, could be a mill and overlay. Those things are important to maintain the integrity and the useful life of your streets, but they will be competing for dollars against streets which still need to be completely reconstructed. But it's going to be important, as I mentioned, for us to consider and figure out how we want to manage that in order to protect the investments that we've made in the last 10 or 15 years. In the residential street preservation program, streets are generally prioritized with a worst first approach. And we regularly review and evaluate the pavement condition index or PCI data that comes to us through evaluation processes. We updated that in 2023. And we saw some incremental increases in the overall PCI ratings of our streets, an increase of about 10%. But that is slow, but slow and steady progress is important. The street CIP anticipates updating that PCI report every 3 to 5 years. The next update, budgeted in 2026. I think what we didn't see with this last update was any sort of upsetting of the apple cart or streets that were leapfrogging in front of others in the plan. And so we continue each year and work to try to design at least one year, if not a little further ahead, on that residential street maintenance program. The memo in the packet, and I think we're all pretty familiar with it because we just have recently discussed it at council meetings and submitting our 5-year CIP for the Johnson County CARS program. But we do have a larger CARS project budgeted and planned in each of the 5 years of the 2025 through 2029 street CIP. And I won't go over them in detail, but the memo did provide the narrative repeated from that CARS 5-year plan packet from a couple of months ago. If you're interested in wanting to sort of see the detail of what will happen on those proposed projects. Additionally, the city has received a Safe Streets grant as part of the bipartisan infrastructure law. It established the Safe Streets and Roads for All program. And we worked very closely with a consultant in 2023 to submit a grant application, which will allow us to complete a transportation safety action plan. And that plan really looks at eliminating and publicly committing to a goal of 0 traffic fatalities and injuries on the roadways in our city. We are in the process of getting the agreement submitted. Once that occurs, we anticipate it will take about 4 to 6 months for the project to be approved by the Department of Transportation. Then we will be able to take that project out to bid. And then both the results of this study will be combined with the bike ped study, which is in the process of wrapping up, as well as the Rock Creek Corridor study, which does include a component of street design on Martway. They'll be integrated into that plan and help inform kind of our future design decisions on our streets and roadways. In the street program, we do include some funding for smaller scale maintenance projects such as traffic striping, curb and gutter replacement program. We do bridge inspections every other year, and then principal and interest on existing street related debt. Generally, our bridges, I believe we have 10, it's either 9 or 10, I can never remember the number. Most of those you wouldn't necessarily think of as bridges. I would consider them culverts over the top of roads. But 2 of those that are in kind of experiencing the worst deterioration will be replaced. Both the bridge at Reed's and the bridge at Outlook as a part of the Rock Creek Channel improvements planned for construction in 2026. Then similar to the debt financing considerations that we talked about earlier, and the potential on the large stormwater infrastructure projects, I think we're gonna, again, have to really dive into appropriate financing tools for the street program, specifically for the Johnson Drive project. And again, we have started the conversation with our financial advisor to look at various structures and scenarios to address that and to help us manage that in the most cost-effective and cost-efficient way for the city. And again, our goal is to have that plan identified and sort of on track for council approval early in the fourth quarter of 2024. As I mentioned, we will also continue to explore additional grant funding for the various street projects, particularly the Johnson Drive project, hoping to reduce the city's actual net costs even further for that significant project. So again, let me pause there and answer any questions on the street program side.
I have a quick question. In the past, we've had issues ongoing with connector bridges, connector streets. For big example is the one over I-35 that connects Johnson and Wyandotte County, and we were not able to recoup money from Wyandotte County for any repairs on that bridge. And I encourage us to continue working with other entities that have connectors with us so Mission doesn't pick up the entire bill.
Yes, duly noted.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah, we have one from Ben.
Yeah, hi Laura, thanks for all the detail. I think in general, it seems like the residential street program and the cars projects are really well evaluated and laid out for us. Couple things that came to mind for me is one tool that's been really useful talking to residents about street maintenance has been the PCI map that was on the website, and I think that one is still at 2017. If I haven't found a newer one, go ahead and let me know where that is if that's my mistake. But if we can have an updated one on the website at some point, that would be helpful.
Okay.
'Cause that's just great for showing people, why are we working on which streets and when. And then the other thing that came to mind was there is a line item for things like striping and traffic safety. I continue to just notice concerning spots and hear things from neighbors about, faded markings and vehicles traveling, too quickly on residential streets. I still want to hopefully dedicate some resources and take some time to look at traffic calming and slowing down some of those problem streets. With more than just sort of spot enforcement. And I
Right.
think that's it.
No, I appreciate that. We will certainly look and see if we can't get that updated PCI map out there. I would encourage you, as you hear from residents or see striping areas of concern, particularly as it relates to striping, please feel free to pass those on to Public Works, either Stephanie or Brent. I know we have a running list of those that we hope to get to, but that's important to keep that. And we were just discussing at our leadership team meeting earlier this week, kind of a traffic calming policy and thoughts about how to bring that back. There's several of those elements that are included or addressed as part of some of the implementation strategies in the comprehensive plan. And I think Brian had mentioned we got the final version of that back recently. And so now we will turn our attention to how do we really start to integrate some of those implementation strategies, even yet with some of our budget conversations heading into 2025.
Awesome. That's great news. Thank you for that. And yeah, I know it's been, just thinking on it, it's been a minute since we've talked about some of the striping issues and things that I've seen. So I'll do my homework and get an updated list for you.
Great, thank you. I'm just going to hit a couple of highlights on Parks and Recreation, just really as it relates to the revenue streams. And as I mentioned, then we'll spend a little bit more time talking about the projects at our next work session in May. The Parks and Recreation program is our third area in the CIP, and it addresses the capital infrastructure needs at the city's 8 outdoor parks, the Powell Community Center, and the Mission Family Aquatic Center, or MFAC, as well as trails located throughout Mission. The Parks CIP program is funded primarily through a dedicated 3/8 sales tax for Parks and Recreation. Again, that generates about 1.2 million annually, as well as special Parks and Recreation funds, which are a portion of the alcohol tax distributed by the state. That equates to roughly $90,000 to $100,000 annually. We were very successful in late 2020, September of 2022, headed into 2023, renewing that dedicated sales tax. The first 10 years of the sales tax was about 60 some odd percent of the revenues annually were dedicated to debt service for reconstruction of the Mission Family Aquatic Center, as well as catching up on deferred maintenance at the community center. We've made tremendous progress there. Still a ways to go on some things, but we've been able to, I think, take care at the community center of many of the underlying structural mechanical issues, and now we're really able to focus the dollars that we're spending there on improvements that benefit our patrons and users of the facility. The other really exciting thing coming out of the renewal of the sales tax was that we were able to help meet the desires of both the community and this council in terms of really focusing attention on significant improvements to our city's outdoor parks. And so we had gone through a conceptual park master planning process that had identified nearly $10 million worth of improvements to our parks throughout the city. And we've been able to accelerate those through issuance of the 2022A general obligation bonds, getting both Mohawk Park Phase 1 and 2 and the improvements at Waterworks completed. So I think we're excited to continue to see that growth. Again, we are also pursuing grant opportunities on the Parks and Recreation side, and look forward to really continuing those improvements for the benefit of our residents and visitors to the community. One of the things that we'll continue to need to discuss as we move forward is maintenance of these improvements. We want to make sure that we're careful in planning for and dedicating appropriate resources to ensure that the investments that we're making are safe and attractive and inviting for many years to come. We have added one full-time parks maintenance position and several part-time maintenance positions in the city's general fund in recent years. You may recall that the PRT recently recommended to the council consideration of funding a second full-time position for parks maintenance in the 2025 budget. There's an opportunity, and again, we can discuss this in more detail later, but I at least wanted to at least put out there as food for thought as we move through both the CIP and the general fund in the coming weeks, that there may be an opportunity when we structured the Parks and Recreation sales tax, we structured it in such a way that it would allow for both capital expenditures and operating expenditures. And so I think we'll want to turn an eye toward, is that something that we want to consider shifting any personnel related expenses for maintenance of our outdoor park system into the sales tax budget. Community center, generally revenues continue to improve. We aren't quite back to pre-pandemic levels, but the progress has been significant. And I think everybody's familiar with the feasibility study that we wrapped up in 2023 and the recommendations and strategies to help the facility achieve about a 70% cost recovery going forward. And again, as I mentioned, there are still items that need to be taken care of. That facility will be is celebrating its 25th anniversary this year. And so we want to make sure that that remains a benefit and amenity for our community well into the future. And then the MFAC, the debt service was retired at for the aquatic center renovations in 2023. Excuse me. And so expenses that you will see when we bring those forward for the MFAC in the next 5-year program are really focused on maintenance and helping to keep the facility fresh and attractive for our users. So that's really all I wanted to present this evening on the budget. It's a lot to digest, but again, we wanted to get it out there and get it out there early. And we'll have lots of opportunities through mid-August when we will finally adopt our budget to discuss and prioritize improvements in our CIP.
Great. Any final comments? Okay. So that concludes discussion items. Ms. Smith, are there any department updates for the Finance and Administration Committee?
I don't know. I would throw it out if there's anybody who wants to raise their hand in the audience.
Not seeing a lot of hands.
Okay.
So it is now 7:26, and with no further discussion, that concludes the meeting of the Finance and Administration Committee.
All right, it is 7:27 p.m. and I'd like to call this meeting of the Community Development Committee to order. While this meeting is being held in person, we are also offering the option for the public to participate through Zoom if preferred. Instructions on how to attend virtually are included in the City Council calendar item listed on the front page of missionks.org. The public is also invited to participate in the meeting. If you are participating through Zoom, please either add your comment in the chat feature and it will be read out loud, or note that you would like to speak and we will call on you shortly to make your comment verbally. Please remember your comments or questions are visible to everyone in the meeting. If you are part of our in-person group tonight, please raise your hand but stay seated and we will call on you to go to the lectern to make your comments. When you make your comment, please state your name and city of residence for the record. Also be conscientious of others trying to speak and speak slowly and clearly. This meeting will be recorded and posted on the city's website at missionks.org. Please contact the administration office at 913-676-8350 with any questions or concerns. Ms. Folks, please call roll.
Chomphosy? Here. House?
Here.
Haden?
Here.
Ryherd?
Here.
Green?
Here.
Here.
Josie?
Here.
Our first item of business tonight is public comment. Is there any member of the public who would like to comment now on an item not on our agenda tonight? Okay, don't see any hands, anything online? Nope. All right. We do not have any items coming forward from the Planning Commission this evening, so we will move on to public presentations. We have one public presentation this evening, a proclamation declaring May National Cities, Towns, and Villages Month from Mayor Flora.
Thank you. Today, Mission proclaims May to be National Cities, Towns, and Villages Month in recognition of the importance of local government service. The proclamation is part of a national effort to uplift municipal governments led by the National League of Cities, a nonpartisan organization comprised of city, town, and village leaders focused on improving the quality of life for their current and future residents. National Cities, Towns, and Villages Month is part of the year-long centennial celebration of the National League of Cities, which was founded in 1924. Today, NLC provides local leaders resources to help govern and advocates on behalf of the nation's cities, towns, and villages.
Thank you, Mayor. We will now move on to our action items. Our first action item this evening is the acceptance of the meeting minutes from Robin Folks.
Thank you. Draft minutes of the April 3rd Community Development Committee meeting are included for review and acceptance in your packet tonight.
Recommend acceptance on consent.
Next, we will consider a lease purchase of cardio equipment for the Powell Community Center from Penn Omni.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So the cardio equipment is among the most heavily utilized equipment at the Powell Community Center, includes treadmills, ellipticals, stationary bikes, rowers, etc. And it is replaced every 3 years as part of a lease purchase, which helps to minimize the repair costs by retaining equipment only as long as it's fully under warranty. And the last lease purchase of cardio equipment was in 2021. So by lease purchasing, the city can take advantage of covered maintenance costs while still keeping other dollars available for parks and recreation capital projects and purchases. The recommendation for 2024 maintains the existing number of elliptical units in the facility. And based on patron use data, it removes one treadmill, one bike with virtual interface, and one power mill, and then replaces that with a recumbent bike, a vertical climber, and an arc trainer, which are pretty heavily targeting full body cardio as opposed to just one particular lower body. Staff solicited bids from Performance Fitness Equipment, Central States Fitness, Push Pedal Pool, and Advanced Exercise. And Push Pedal Pool's bid came to $133,972.26. Advanced Exercises came to $134,809.15. And with interest rate differences, Advanced Exercises monthly lease payment came to $3,839.57, which is roughly 100 plus less a month. So in addition to that difference, by staying with Advanced Exercise, they are open to purchasing or paying off the last balloon payment of our current lease of $15,726, which is pretty significant. So after Mission consulted with our financial advisor, it was determined that the most optimal arrangement would be to work directly with their vendor and their preferred financial institution, which is Kansas State Bank. They're offering the finance purchase at 6.29% over 3 years, which equates to 35 monthly payments of $3,839.57 with a one-time final payment of $10,240. So the entire lease purchase amount, the principal plus $13,655.37 in interest alone, comes to $148,464.52 and represents roughly a $288 increase per month, and that's largely due to the increased interest rate. So staff is recommending the acceptance of a bid from Advanced Exercise in the amount of $134,809.15 for the replacement of cardio equipment at the Powell Community Center and approval of the resolution authorizing the mayor to execute the necessary documents to complete the lease purchase with Kansas State Bank to finance the purchase of the equipment over a 3-year period. This has been approved as part of the 2024 Capital Improvement Project Plan. And these funds specifically will be pulled from the Special Parks Fund. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I appreciate that you were able to look at the data to show which pieces were used, which pieces weren't, and make adjustments. I think that's wise. Thank you.
You bet. Thanks.
All right, recommendation?
Recommend acceptance on consent.
All right, our next action item will be consideration of testing and inspection services contract to complete phase 2 of Mohawk Park, also from Mr. Almoni.
The 2024 Mohawk Park Phase 2 Improvement Project is close to kicking off. The design contract with Confluence includes some construction administration services, but the scope and nature of the project requires a little bit of specific third-party testing and inspection on site. So staff solicited proposals from 3 engineering firms, Terracon, Alpha and Omega, and Intertech PSI, Intertech PSI was the only responsive proposal received. So staff is recommending approval of a testing and inspection service contract for the Mohawk Park Phase 2 Improvements Project with Intertech PSI in an amount not to exceed $15,684, which was less than the approved budgeted amount of $25,000. The project will kick off here in the next month, and services will be paid for out of the 2024 outdoor parks budget, which is funded by Parks and Recreation sales tax. Happy to answer any questions.
Right, seeing no questions.
Thank you.
All right. Our next action item tonight is for the contract award for the Rowe Avenue Construction Project, which is the 2024 CARS project from Brent Morton.
Thank you very much. So as you said, this is our 2024 CARS project. It involves multiple cities. The project includes a mill and overlay from 63rd all the way to Johnson Drive, traffic signal buyout and replacement, additional ped crossings at Johnson Drive and Rowe. So you'll be able to cross at all four legs at that intersection, which is not available right now. We're installing a new sidewalk along the east side of Rowe, basically from the bridge all the way up to Johnson Drive to get people up to where they at least can cross at the intersection and make it into town if they need to. Additional ADA ramps, spot curb replacement. The road's still in pretty good shape, so we're just kind of fixing the existing stuff out there like we do with mill and overlay projects. There is some stormwater that we've had bad ratings on, just old CMP in the ground. That's also getting replaced with this project. And I'm sure you're all aware, Johnson County, we were doing our due diligence, checking utilities, and they found out their force main along that corridor is in terrible shape. So they fast-tracked that project for us to get that whole new, like 2,000 feet of main put in before our project. So that was very nice of them to be able to fast-track that and get it done before this project starts, so we can get this street constructed in this calendar year, which really helps with CARS funding as well. Project was bid in April 2024, and bids were received on April 26. The lowest bidder was Amino Brothers at $1,476,817.65. It was lower than the original engineer's estimate that was submitted to CARS. If you look on the back, the CARS numbers are a little bit off. Just we forgot to add, I think a month or 2 months ago, you guys approved the pre-order of the traffic signal equipment for that intersection. So that's CARS reimbursable. So we were allocated 1.8 million basically, so about 870 in reimbursement. So with that traffic signal purchase and all that, we will be able to capture that 870,000 in return with this project. 4 cities on this one. We got 63% of the construction cost inspection, Roland Park's at 14%, Fairway's at 22%, and Prairie Village is at 1% because they're kind of at the tail end at 63rd. The interlocal has been finalized with all the cities, and everybody's set aside the funds for this project. Prairie Village is the only one that has a separate interlocal, and that's just because they're just going to fund this project out of their pocket since it's such a minimal number. Projects estimated to start in June or July 2024 and should be completed by December 2024, hopefully sooner than that. And to your point on pavement markings, we have switched to a polymer paint, and we're seeing a longer lifespan with that with the snow plows. So there is a cost to that, but I think the lifespan gives us another 5 to 6 years out of striping. So we've moved to that in the last 2 or 3 years. So we'll be able to see if that is a viable moving forward, probably the next 5 to 6. Be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, thanks, Brent.
Any questions? Thank you for your work in coordinating all of this. This is
Yeah.
a lot of cities, a lot of things involved.
Somebody gets the next one.
Recommendation?
Regular agenda.
Our 6th item tonight is for an interlocal agreement for stormwater systems funding for 2024, also from Mr. Morton.
Sorry, I was off one.
Oh, wait, nope, sorry. trying to get through this too quickly. Our fifth action item tonight is for the consideration of construction inspection contract for the 2024 CARS project.
So same project, we hire outside construction inspection, just we've got limited staff and you really want to have eyes on it for testing. When me or Stephanie can't be out there, just making sure you're getting the products and what you're paying for, they're checking tickets and you're getting the asphalt mix, the concrete mix and everything that's required with building these projects. Usually a project this size, we would probably recommend full-time inspection, but Pfefferkorn's done our inspections for the last probably 4 years and we've had good luck with them. And they're already inspecting 55th Street that's been approved. So since we're so small, part-time was recommended because they can have the ability to go from project to project depending on what's going on. Because on mill and overlays, you really just need them out there, for the pipe installation, when the mill and overlays taking place, striping and some of the big ticket items. So thought to save some money and bring this kind of under budget. We went with part-time inspection and we've had good luck with that in the past. So recommending a contract with Pfefferkorn Engineering for $62,700 for the inspection of the 2024 CARS project row from Johnson Drive to 63rd Street.
Any questions? Okay. Recommendation? Consent it is. Okay, now our sixth item. For an interlocal agreement for stormwater systems funding for 2024.
Okay. Yes, this is the relatively new program from the county for reimbursement of stormwater infrastructure that has a rating of 3.2 or higher. Just like Laura was talking before in our budget, that's why it's so crucial we get all our stormwater system rated and updated in the county system, but it allows us to apply for these funds. And I'm kind of shooting from the hip here, but I think we've done this since 2021, and we're probably getting close to $1 million worth of return on stormwater infrastructure or reimbursed for in those 3 or 4 years. So it's been a very beneficial program. This is for our 2024 street program. So they allocated an intent to proceed in 2023. This is just the final agreement that allows me to submit for reimbursement once the infrastructure is installed. The allowable infrastructure on this project that had a rating and it was available for funding came to $532,860. The reimbursable part of that at a 50-50 cost share is $266,430. And this is just the last piece of that moving puzzle to where once it's installed, we've paid for it, I can submit for reimbursement through the county. So we're looking for approval for an interlocal with Johnson County for the 2024 street repair projects and stormwater projects. Be happy to answer any questions on this one as well.
Comments? No? What do we think?
Give the money back.
Given the dollar amount, perhaps regular agenda makes sense.
Well, and I think it's good to highlight the fact that we're able to work with the county and get, some funding from them. So I agree. Okay.
Thank you.
Our next action item for tonight is the consideration of easement acquisition for the 2024 street preservation project and localized drainage projects for 2024 from Stephanie Boyce.
Yep. Thank you. So these easements are for 2 projects. Our 2024 street preservation project that just getting started on 55th Street and the 2024 localized drainage projects. In order to construct these improvements, some easements are needed. Those include permanent sidewalk easements, permanent drainage easements, some permanent road right-of-way, and some temporary construction easements. Brent went door knocking and was able to get 29 of these easements between the 2 projects, the majority of them for the 55th Street project. So in order to move forward with the project and to do what we need to do, we need to approve these easements, accept them, and then record them with the county. So those would be on file. So we're just looking for approval of the acceptance of these easements.
Any questions, comments? Okay, recommendation? Okay. Our eighth action item tonight is for the consideration of the 2025 Street Preservation Project Design Task Order, also from Ms. Boyce.
Thank you. We talked a little bit about this earlier in the finance meeting for CIP. The city dedicates about $2 million annually for our street preservation project, which is guided by our PCI. Some previous geotechnical analysis. So to maintain progress with this program, the city tries to design the year prior to construction. And the streets for 2025 are listed with our PCI as well. So we have 61st Street from Broadmoor to Barkley with a PCI of 16.4 that's rated serious. 62nd Street from Glenwood Street to Lamar Avenue is rated 32.5, very poor. Reed's Road from Johnson Drive to 58th Street, PCI of 19.8, again serious. And then Beverly Drive from Dearborn to Reed's Road, and that's rated at a 28.2, so very poor. The proposed design includes full depth pavement reconstruction along with the replacement of curbs, gutters, driveway approaches, and improvements or repairs to the stormwater system, specifically targeting those components with a risk rating of 4 and 5. So the enclosed task order encompasses all the necessary design services for the proposed streets, and that includes surveying, data collection, design, development, coordination with our utility agencies, and the creation of easement documents like you saw in the previous agenda item. That also includes our meetings, permitting, drafting of the bid document. So we are asking for approval of this task order in an amount not to exceed $274,197.
Questions? What do you recommend?
Let's take it to the regular agenda, I think.
I think so
Yeah.
too. I think it's really good for people to know. Okay. Our final action item tonight is for the consideration of an obligation of funds for the Operation Greenlight Grant, also from Ms. Boyce.
Thank you. This item is another grant that was received through Mark for the Johnson Drive Traffic Signal Enhancement Project. And this is part of the carbon reduction grant program that's available. And what that program does is focus on mitigation of carbon dioxide emissions from on-road transportation sources. So in 2023, the City of Mission jointly applied for a grant with Mark for this project, and that will enhance the traffic signals on Johnson Drive from Broadmoor Street to Rowe Avenue by installing a network communication, pan, tilt, zoom cameras, traffic signal controllers, that will allow Johnson Drive to be part of the Operation Greenlight, or OGL as we call it. The coordination of traffic signals helps reduce the unnecessary delays, improves the traffic flow, and reduces emissions that contribute to the ozone pollution. We were awarded, did I put that on there? The total project is $197,380, and then our share for local match is $39,480. So we're asking for the obligation of these funds. I've been working closely with KDOT, who's administering this, and so once we submit our Form 1302, then they'll start the process and we can go out to bid for design, and then shortly after that, the installation of the equipment.
Are there any questions or comments? All right.
Johnson Drive from, I think it was Broadmoor down to, did I put it in here?
In a row, most of it, yeah.
Okay. Yep.
Very nice. All right. And consent? Okay. All right, that concludes our action items. We have no discussion items this evening. Before we adjourn, Ms. Smith, are there any department updates for the Community Development Committee?
I don't know if if any of the department directors have any related to parks or public works that they would like to provide, and then if not, I have one last item I'd like to just address.
So this Saturday is Outdoor Kids to Parks Day from 10 to 12 at Streamway Park. We were looking at the weather forecast and it's not looking very pleasant. So the plan is to make that call tomorrow, so there's enough time to at least get the word out. And backup will be at the Community Center Gymnasium, North Gymnasium. We also are in the month of the MFAC opening. So Saturday, May 25th, 12 noon, kicks off a whole summer of aquatics fun.
And did I hear the pool is already being filled?
Yeah, how exciting is that? This is the first time we've been 3 weeks ahead of opening. There were a couple of years I was gnawing on my nails, but this year we've got plenty of lead time, and some of that's to help us in the deep water training portion of our lifeguards. So that's going to help us out. And just an update on Waterworks Park. We've seen some slowdown in some of that progress on the trail pours because of the inclement weather. But once they get that southern east portion trail poured, the next phase is preparing the playground installation. And then in about a month, we'll get the restrooms installed and parking lot will be the final piece. So it's coming together.
So exciting.
I'll just give a few project updates. The Fox Ridge project's getting close to completion. That was a 2023 project, but all of the signals are operational now, including the two on the bridge that Johnson County Wastewater helped fund with the Nelson plant. Operation Greenlight also is going to take those signals over and control them. But recently the scout cameras got hacked. So that's kind of how that all ties together. So we're about 3 weeks out of them getting that addressed, and then those signals will start operating a lot better and moving traffic through there a lot smoother. So right now it's in max operations, which the engineering firms recommended with that project, but it is on our radar to get traffic moving through there better once they have control of the intersection during peak times. 55th's moving along. They're just working on the stormwater work now. Kansas Gas and Water One are about out of there, and then it's just up to our contractors. So we should hit the timelines of getting that finished close to the end of fall. And then the 60th and Broadmoor, 61st and Broadmoor. Yeah. Those pedestrian stop signs are installed and up and running at that intersection with the crosswalks. Had a few compliments from the residents there that it's a safer intersection to cross now. So that was good to hear. And then all our other projects that we've talked about moving through design process. So we're in good shape for this year. So be happy to answer any questions, but that's kind of what's going on with the projects right now. Thank you.
Okay, anything else?
I believe Robin had provided kind of a listing of some upcoming meeting dates for you to consider. We have several that have already been scheduled, but I wanted to just bring to everybody's attention that with the Juneteenth holiday next month and the 4th of July holiday, we were already making some adjustments in our regular meeting schedules with a variety of projects and things going on. In addition to the budget, we're going to need lots of time for work sessions. We anticipate bringing forward a conversation around updates to short-term rental policy. The bike ped plan needs to come back to you. At some point, we anticipate conversations around incentive requests, potentially for phase 2 of Sunflower Developments project over on Martway and the Black project at 5665 Fox Ridge. So if you could take the opportunity to review that handout and indicate your availability. I tried to highlight meeting dates which we weren't already planning on in red, so that we can plug in some extra dates if we need them. But if you could please complete those and give them, send them back to Robin or myself by the end of the day tomorrow, about whether or not you anticipate you would be attending in, excuse me, in person, virtually, or if you will be absent. That will help us in sort of firming up schedules for the balance of the summer.
Right, thank you, Laura. It is now 7:55 PM, and with no further discussion, that concludes the meeting of the Community Development Committee. Again, this video will be made public on our website at missionks.org. Thank you.